What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got some more scary stories for you guys. I've got 3 longer scary stories. A link to them will be in the description. But yeah, let's go. I'm a relatively small YouTuber. Not terribly small to the point where I get no attention, but not big enough for most of you guys to recognize me. I mainly do creepy urban exploration videos that don't capture much, but I give a horror history of a place while I walk around. Well, recently I bought what was supposed to be a haunted house and decided to record my first day in it. I'm definitely gonna move now because every little sound makes me want to jump, including the leaky faucet in my bedroom's bathroom. It started off the same as my normal videos. I put a GoPro on top of my head using a handbed that was a size too tight because I had dropped one down a cliff before, and gave a narration while walking around my house. There's a decent backstory to the house. It's the same old cliche horror talk, like a serial killer who was never caught, never confessed to anything, and all the victims' bodies are missing their heads. I embellished the story quite a bit, but that's standard practice in my field. The few creepy moments that gave my channel the extra push it so desperately needed could have been camera malfunctions or a homeless man upset for me. I don't think I actually ever experienced something paranormal in my videos until now. I finished the video and did some basic editing, chopping out the boring parts, upload the video, and went to bed. I didn't really think about it too much while I drifted off. When I had woken up though, my phone exploded. Not in a literal sense, but just with notifications. YouTube notifications, to be precise. My heart rate jumped, as it normally means a video of mine blew up, and I got excited, basically the same way a kid feels on Christmas morning. And then my attitude changed. At this, the present was actually Cole all along, because when I started reading the comments, I didn't feel safe anymore. 126, what was that? Bro, you think you're slick at 923 putting some Halloween decorations in the shower? Great special effects though. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't notice anything until 902, but I just had to rewatch the whole thing. Super scary stuff. A long list of timestamps. How are you not seeing this? It may be hidden on the camera, but you got peripheral, right? I'm sure if I watch again I'll find more. 8 minutes. Time to leave. These were just some of the comments that I read, and all I could think about right now was watching the video. I popped down in front of my desk, opened my laptop, clicked the file, and wanted to go to the first timestamp that everyone was talking about. 25 seconds. I paused the video and scanned the frame. It was nighttime, and this is just after I opened the front door of my new house, explaining how I bought it, and the camera is peering inside, looking up the stairs to the second floor hallway to the left. There's also a couch facing a TV to the right, with an entryway to the kitchen only half visible through the doorway and behind the couch. The lights to the kitchen and upstairs were off for now, but illuminated enough by the living room that you could scour the entire frame and see what was going on. There, on the top of my stairs, my blood turns to ice as I freeze in my chair. Is that a head looking at me? Most of the head looked to be behind the corner of the wall at the top of the stairs, but it's definitely visible that there's a shadowy face with curly brown hair, forehead, and the bridge of its nose. Lifeless eyes glinting in the flashlight from my headrest, casting shadows onto a face of the wall behind it. I was still frozen in fear, with my blood pumping heavily. I feel the door open behind me and something staggers. I was gonna turn around, but feeling something was staring at me, I couldn't. I played the video and the camera immediately would go back to my car. Something about it being a beater, but the house is new, and pans back to the inside of the house and the head wasn't there anymore. Where was it now? I thought. In the video, I entered the threshold of the house and walked into the living room, moving my head around to show everyone the details of the room. And I went deeper into the lore of the house while walking around and showing off my collection of geeky crap. The next timestamp rolled around and I paused. At 126, I looked around but see it almost immediately. On the stairwell again, from the CV side, meaning I could only see the end part of the stairs, heading towards the doorway with the wallet connected to. You know the large space above most stairs right as you begin walking up to the level with the ceiling of the next floor? That was kind of the layout of the house. Right at the corner of the opening, there was another head, peering at me upside down. I could still see the same parts, but the curly hair was extended by the gravity. The glint in those horrifying and dead eyes remained the same. Almost immediately after the video, I headed to the kitchen, and when I played it, the head went away from view instantly as the camera angle moved to the entryway of the kitchen. I fast-forwarded to the next timestamp to see it again, shaking as I moved the mouse, but I didn't need to pause it. At 1:59, you could still only see the same parts of the head, but it was peering out of a semi-open microwave in the back of the kitchen. Upon a closer look, you could see something dripping on the handle. I couldn't handle much more of this. I felt like I was gonna throw up and I wanted to get out of the house. The feeling of being watched grew ever stronger, and I moved my cursor to top comment. The shower one at 9:23 was terrifying. You know how to make good content, man. Great acting. If it's not acting, run. I hovered over the timestamp and wondered if the click was worth it, and I did it anyways. I just had to know. At 9:23, my hands became slick and shaky, and I paused the video on accident. When entering the bathroom, like I did in the video, you couldn't see anything in the shower. The curtains were drawn, and I had pretty unique shower curtains, as in curtains plural. 2 half curtains that could open up from the sides and the middle like a window. There was a foot gap in the middle, and that's when I was walking in. You could see the shelf and the safety railing holding my washcloths. You could only see it for a second with the speed the camera was moving, and pausing it made it blurry. It took place in the bathroom that connected with my bedroom, the one to the right of the left of the desk I was. But when I walked to my mirror and the video looks through it, the angle was just perfect enough where you could see a shower nozzle in the distance. It was only there for a couple seconds, but that was all you needed. You could see the whole head. It had been severed and cut up pretty severely, with a nozzle angling downwards coming out of its mouth. But that wasn't the part that freaked me out the most. It was my head, with my eyes and mouth gaping open. All of it was mine, completely lifeless. I sat there, frozen, heart ready to burst out of my chest like that scene in Alien, only with more gore. I couldn't even think straight. Only one thought was going through my head, and that was to pack up and leave and hire someone else to move me out. And then I heard it, a wet thud from my bathroom, a wet thud from my shower. Dear Dr. Easterly, I was afraid to say I'm disappointed, but unsurprised to receive your letter of resignation. As you know, we take the emotional well-being of our research teams very seriously at the IPSET. Firstly, with your enlistment into the IPSET, nobody forced your hand to sign the contract. Yes, I do accept that under the circumstances, you were somewhat incentivized to do so. However, as you frequently pointed out in your letter, you would rather die than work another day for you freaks. I'd like to remind you that when you were given the freedom to choose between death and IPSET, you chose IPSET. We cannot be held responsible for you feeling that you made the wrong decision after the fact. Secondly, your tenure in the nursery of the North Sea facility, as per procedure, you were given a full brief of the acidity of the larval stage entity 0901 secretions. I have seen the safety video myself. Human resources could not have been clearer about the need to maintain a 19-foot radius at all times. I don't care how often you repeat in your letter, but we didn't tell you that they could talk. That's not an excuse. I've seen the footage of the incident, and I do accept that your injuries looked painful. However, we hold no responsibility for your inability to resist telesuggestive speech patterns. You'd seen photographs of the entity in your orientation. Despite your youth back then, the way you panicked was, in no uncertain terms, unprofessional. Your wailing and shrieks overexcited several larval stage specimens. And yes, I understand that you watched your flesh melt until you had a bone hand that you had to snap off yourself. Need I remind you, though, that Security Sergeant Wilson's husband had to bury a box of melted flesh, even though we took great lengths to seal the shoebox-sized coffin, and it carried a distinct aroma of dead fish. My ability to sympathize with your amputation is limited given this context. Besides, as I'm sure you don't need reminding, the bionic arm we provided as a replacement is more than suitable. As unpleasant as the installation surgery may have been, I'm sure a woman of your intellect understands the necessity for the recipient to be conscious when augmentating the nervous system with advanced wetworks. At least I hoped a woman of your intellect would understand that. I would be lying, Dr. Easterly, if your expansive later didn't make me question my own judgment. The third example you cited, that of your family, infuriated me. I'll be honest, Dr. Easterly, I struggle to comprehend where you could find the nerve to level such a charge against IPSET, myself, or anyone at Marathon County facility. I found the gall you showed in doing so to be totally blunt, offensive. You were fully aware of Event 0216 when you volunteered to study it. I emphasize this because you seem to have forgotten it was you who requested your family be transferred with you here. It was a testament to your abilities that the IPSET Human Resources went to such great lengths to accommodate your requests. I see now that this was wasted, unappreciated, and an unappreciated stupid investment of time and finance. As I recall, you were originally excited about this entity, and the blame cannot be placed on myself or IPSET for what transpired over the 6 months of your first contact. IPSET contamination protocols are specific and thorough for a reason. I have reviewed the security footage, and upon exiting the taste chamber, you clearly did not remain in the decontamination Foundation member for the 120 minutes. 118 minutes and 27 seconds isn't 2 hours. I'm aware of your reports that snivelly bastard harbored regard. These accusations were found to have no merit. The Entity 2016 breach was found by IPSET to have been caused by lack adherence to the policy, not sabotage. As director, I stand by the findings of the investigation, and the blame for what happened to your family lies with you, not the other doctors. I was under the impression that this matter had been put to bed after the hearing, and it truly saddens me that this wasn't the case, Geraldine. IPSET cannot be held responsible for the Christophorus being small enough to fit through the air vent, and you're quite frankly more than comfortable on-site accommodation. It is no fault of ours that your husband and 2 children slept through the infection process. We were not aware that they secreted anesthetics from their exoskeletons, although the observation proved helpful in future research, so their deaths were not in vain. I'll be completely honest, even I found the footage of emergence terrifying. Not as much as when I was there, but it was quite an experience watching the surveillance video back before I wrote this, watching us both screaming in the lab while security took down Gregory. I'm sorry that was callous. It wasn't Gregory. It was the entity that Gregory had become. Suffice to say, the fatal shot clearly occurs after full transformation, and we did not murder your husband. We put down the monstrosity that your negligent attitude to health and safety allowed him to become. I was fond of your family, Dr. Easterly, and it pains me to believe that you're deluded enough to think I hold any responsibility for your children and husband becoming, well, you know what they became. I'm looking at the photos as I write this. Little Tiffany's spine stretching, the new leg shredding out the skin of her back. It's still the movement of her eyes that fell out that disturbs me the most. Geraldine, they still have their old skin, you know, in the lab. I know you're aware that the corpses they left behind. You were on the team that dissected young Stevens, after all. I didn't know if you knew about the skin, though. The human skin. I mean, the skin that they shed. Do you remember that night? I'm sure you do. We're long-lived, but not indestructible. Gregory and your children are even less so. Do you remember the months they spent in the infirmary? Do you remember how I'd visit them as though they were my own? I was just as horrified as you when their faces started elongating, and their mandibles that mangled and pushed their jaws out of the way brought tears to both of our eyes, not just yours. I'm sure you remember how we ran through the facility when they started chasing us. Very few times have I actually been scared, and knowing those monstrosities with their centipede bodies and fresh rendering face claws were once little Stephen and Tiffany still gives me nightmares. I was there holding your hand in the North Sea Infirmary, and Gregory was caught up in whatever project I had him on. They were my godchildren. Even though I've seen my fair share of both, that title still holds emotional significance to me. I am trying to keep this letter professional despite you not showing me the same courtesy, but F you for placing your family's deaths on me. I was crying at the funeral too, and you know that we did everything we do here also has meaning, no matter how much it upsets us. I don't recall you protesting when we were cowering in a corner listening to infected children getting gunned down in the corridor. This is where I'd also like to remind you that for someone who's apparently an immoral sociopath, I took your request for compassionate leave incredibly seriously. You were the first IPSET employee to receive a sick day. Did you know that? That was specifically because of my intervention. HR wanted you to be labeled a compromised asset, and perhaps I made a mistake in overruling them. This is why your letter disappointed me. I'd grown fond of you, not just as a colleague, but as a friend. Very rarely has this happened during my long career, and it brought me no pleasure to take your time on the PLR team. If you recall, you begged me to be transferred there. I warned you, I know you remember. In fact, I made it very clear that you'd be working with books rather than bioentities, but you weren't safer emotionally or physically. I find it shocking that you managed to admit the fact I denied your request 7 times before agreeing to have you transferred there. You were a key asset in our team, and moving you with the page turners was done at great expense to our long-term strategy. I put you on the event Hari because you were the most valuable asset there as soon as you touched down in the UK. Do you think that those other idiots could have deciphered the book? Do you think any of them could have been able to do it? 3 of them that brought it in gouged their eyeballs out within a week, and 4 more had to be terminated when they resigned and joined the damn cult that you identified. You were the only person who wasn't broken by the little red book. Think about that, Geraldine. Dr. Bridger spent 30 years working with a multi-dimensional, sentient, endlessly self-writing literary event entity that was actively trying to kill him. And before he retired from the field, he rescued 5 agents from a pocket dimension. He was as tough as they come. He'd had this project in the 90s and hadn't broken. No matter how much it happened, I didn't have a lot of options at the time. I'm as upset with you as I can be, and I can't help but stop once again to thank you for what you achieved during your time at the Event Hair team. That's partly why I don't accept your accusations of how you lost your arm. You're one of the most Tellaristian assets we have. Our understanding of the Event Hair has grown exponentially, and I'll be the first to know that I'll be the first to admit we knew next to nothing before you were assigned there. Given what you uncovered, we would have been in serious trouble if we'd let it sip through the net. Jesus, even I'm scared of the damn thing, and I've been in the over library and communed with the listener. Sorry, that's Entity E001 to you. My point is, I want you to understand something. I am truly sincere when I say I regret your tenure in the PLR ending the way it did. One of the few criticisms I do accept is that I could have done something to pull you out here, and I do apologize for that. However, given what we are learning now, I will not apologize for keeping my most valuable asset on the project. I'll be blunt, Geraldine. Those researchers you killed, they meant nothing to me. Nothing. Given the scope of the event Hair represents, I satiate your bloodlust with 1,000,000 more if it meant keeping you in a room with that book. Let's be honest, ripping out their eyes to stop yourself from going blind the first time wasn't the only time you needed research assistance anyways. I did not make you eat their eyes. The book made you do that. I just refused to open the door. And I still would. If you would have never slipped into that trance, we would have never learned about this mask. Their lives were a minor inconvenience. Your sanity, however, was a great loss. I did not inject you with immortality serum, only to lose your mind to madness. However, as long as your instability does and continues to interrupt your work, it might not be too much of a setback. There is a great deal to uncover in that book, and I'm sure we'd get a good centuries out of you before I'd allow HR to designate you a compromised asset. So in short, I'm writing that you respectfully decline your resignation. I don't know where you are or how you escaped, but I will find you. Accessing the database to copy everything was smart, and I'll give you that. Emailing a resignation letter to me to gloat about your plans to leak the files you've stolen was very stupid. It was perhaps the most disappointing thing in your 30-page letter. I was like a father to you. I was at your wedding, deep in the bowels of the facility, sending security to collect you, knowing how rough they can be, genuinely broke my heart. We cracked your location in about 30 minutes. Technology was always Gregory's forte, wasn't it? Maybe if it was you that we had lost to Entity 216, I'd be worried right now instead of heartbroken. Keep on the move all you want, but we'll find you sooner or later. Or, you could return. Either way, IPSET cannot afford delays to this project. You'll be back in your cell by the end of the month, and just to forewarn you, how much violence occurs between then and now is your call. Oh, and don't be stupid and post this on the internet like you did with that Fisherman's Cran letter. Yeah, I know it was you that leaked the nursery breach account. I'm upset with you. Don't make me angry, too. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for the video though. I just thought those 2 stories were pretty spooky and fun to read, so I shared them with ya. If you enjoyed, like, comment, all that good stuff, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace.